And after hideability, and I know that's not a word, but concealability, I guess, the next thing we would probably look at is the amount of nutrients, how hard it is to grow that particular plant. We have some squash, some zucchini right in here, and even a monkey, I think, could grow this plant. It's a very simple plant to grow, very productive. The problem is it lacks in some of the other important things that we need to look at for a survival crop, and one of those things is the fact that it needs to be something that we can store. All right, and there's not really any super good ways to store zucchini long term. Evidently, it doesn't come out very well canned, and of course, freezing might be an issue unless you're off the grid, and even then, it's not something you want to rely on. So you can see how productive these plants are. Fairly young. I would say they're maybe 45 days old from seed, if that. And these guys will produce all through the summer down here in where we are, which isn't Idaho. That was a joke. But down here where we are in the south, it's really hard to keep stuff growing in the dead heat of summer. And we're in that right now. And you kind of see of just garden that's nearly as pretty as it was a few months back. When we started doing these, or when you started seeing the fruit tree videos, is it's hard to keep stuff going. So honestly, this time of year we just kind of let it go. Anywho, so the ease of growing is going to be another factor as well too, and will it store? These carrots, they're a great crop. They take a good, maybe 90, 120 days. It is a cool weather crop, but it fits a lot of our factors. I got stuttery there, didn't I? It fits a lot of our factors as far as being able to hide the crop, being fairly productive, concealability, things like that. One of the drawbacks with carrots is if we want to get seed from these crops, from these carrots, we're going to have to leave them in the ground 2 years. So that's the one negative there with the carrots and such as well too. Okay, and here's some more broccoli. Again, this is late in the season here. Broccoli is a cool weather crop. When it gets to be pushing 100 degrees during the day, as it has here for the last month or so, broccoli kind of goes to heck in a handbasket. We're letting this stuff go to seed. What'll happen here is they'll form the seed heads and such on these little guys right here, and we'll let it get completely dry. And approximately a month or so from now, there'll be little black heads on here, little black seeds. We'll cut this off about here, and we'll just shake it into a bag. So seed saving, the availability to, the ease rather of saving the seeds from the plant is an important factor as well. Some of the stuff like beans and peas and such, you can't get much simpler than that. You let them dry on the vine or you drag them into the house. We'll show you some of that in a little bit. And, eventually you get the seeds out. But some stuff like this, this gets a little bit more tricky. Lettuce gets a little bit more tricky. Certain things like again, onions, carrots and such, you're going to have to leave them in the ground for 2 years to get before they start producing seed. So, important consideration there if you're lacking space and time and such. And luckily, we have this small bed of green beans and zucchini at a friend's place here. We don't use raised beds much anymore. We've had all sorts of issues with them as far as when the state's been in a drought for years. Makes it really tough with the raised beds and such. And if you are considering or already using raised beds, I would recommend you read a book called Gardening When It Counts by Steve Solomon. He puts a pretty good case up against raised bed gardening for bad situations and such. It's a very good read. Again, it's called Gardening When It Counts by Steve Solomon. And you can find it on Amazon or probably eBay and such. Getting back to our subject matter, I think for a main vegetable crop for your warm weather, green beans or any type of bean like that would be a good crop. Again, we're talking about vegetables, not legumes or grains and such. That's a whole other issue we'll cover later. Cool weather, peas fit pretty good in that. Again, easy to store easy to collect and store the seeds. The plant's a low plant, okay, low to the ground plant, so it isn't like that corn where you're going to walk up there one day and find, you know, the little Ivan target hidden in there and such, like we just showed, so it isn't going to block your perimeter in that. Very low nutrient requirements for both of those, for either the peas or the green beans. Both of them also, if they are inoculated with the rhizoba virus bacteria, as we talked about in one of the earlier videos with the soybeans and such, will actually add back nitrogen to your soil. Okay, and so it's I think peas and beans, peas for your cooler weather and beans for your warmer weather and such would be good main crop ideas for your summer and your fall and such, or your spring and your fall. Again, they fit all of our criteria and such. Now, that's not saying that's all you need to eat or all you need to grow, but for a large main crop, you've seen on the other videos, you've seen some of the areas where we've had, at our place, where we've had the beans planted and such. We were able, so far, to put up, I believe we're close to 200 jars or 170 jars, quart jars of green beans. Now, that'll last us for 2 years for our family. So again, this is something that you want, something that will produce a lot, that you can pick. And oftentimes with these beans and such and these peas, you can pick them. These have been picked once before. This is a running or climbing type bean. And you can see it's flowering again. Some of the girls, some of the bees they have here are out buzzing around here, working those as well too. So good. Again, beans and peas, good main crop type vegetable item for cooler weather and for warmer weather. All right, and promised to talk about some of the different things to store and such. I had to make a little cheat sheet, little chart here just to go over some of the different stuff. Again, we're basing what we want to grow on several different factors. And again, this is going to be different than what somebody who isn't concerned about survival or about keeping their crops and such quiet or secret from other people might base theirs on. We have several criteria. We've talked about most of them, and I'm just going to go down the chart here with some of the more commonly grown stuff in the U.S. There's not going to be anything too exotic and such. First one's going to be asparagus. Asparagus works out very good on the profile. When we were talking about where we showed the sweet corn and the target hidden in the sweet corn and stuff, we want low profile crops where possible, so that people don't use that as an entrance into the homestead or to the retreat if something happens, as a route of concealment. Okay, asparagus does excellent on the hideability or the concealment aspect of it. A lot of folks don't know, what asparagus looks like. It puts out a big fern, kind of looks like a big weed. We used to have some growing literally right in front of our front door. People would come and go, and it was just a weed. No one ever knew it was asparagus. The nutrient needs or the ease of growing, asparagus is pretty easy to grow. It's one of those things you need to get established ahead of time. It is a plant that takes a couple years to start producing and such. The seed saving ability is a little difficult on it, and the storage is decent. You can it, things like that. We normally don't have that much asparagus, so we normally just eat it fresh. I'm trying to cover crops that we've grown here. Again, I'm not going to get into some of the exotic stuff, bak choy or whatever, and all these different things like that. So, that's something you'll have to experiment with.